When you think of Christmas, you think of quiet, twinkling lights, a cozy tree, silent night, holy night. Forget all of that. Christmas in a medieval castle wasn't a holiday. It was a 12-day-long riot. A festival of fire, grease, ale, organized chaos, and deadly superstition. It wasn't silent. It was a roar, a defiant, drunken, magnificent roar against the darkness. This is the real story, the loud, messy, glorious story of how a medieval castle survived Christmas. 10 core elements that turned the darkest time of year into the most dangerous and most vital party imaginable. Part 1. The Lord of Misrule, when the fool becomes king. With the hall decorated and the fire blazing, the party could begin. But this was not a polite, orderly affair. The medieval world, so rigid, so hierarchical, understood that after a year of strict social order, people needed a release. They needed chaos. So they invented a master of ceremonies for it, the Lord of Misrule. This tradition was a direct descendant of the Roman festival of Saturnalia, where, for a brief period, masters served their slaves, and all social norms were inverted. At the start of the 12-day feast, a king of the festival was chosen. This was not the real Lord. It was almost always his complete opposite, a lowly servant, a jester.
Montage continues. A peasant winks. A fool is making a silly face.
The method of choosing him was part of the fun. A bean or a coin would be baked into a special 12th night cake. The men would eat, and whoever found the bean in his slice was crowned the King of the Bean, or the Lord of Misrule. A similar Queen of the Pea was chosen by the women. From that moment, this Lord of Misrule was given a mock crown of tinsel and branches, a scepter, often a wooden spoon or a pig's bladder on a stick, and absolute power. His word was law. His entire job was to create misrule. He commanded a court of equally ridiculous characters, and he issued commands that everyone, including the real lord and lady, had to obey. His commands were all about inversion. He would command a grim-faced, battle-scarred knight to sing,
"We wish you a Merry Christmas!"
He would order a pious, stuffy bishop to hop on one foot and cluck like a chicken. He would force the Lord to serve him wine, or make the lady of the castle dance with a kitchen boy. He might command a joust between two knights armed with cushions instead of lances. He might order everyone to speak in opposites, or to answer every question with no. He would lead a mock mass, or a feast of fools, a complete parody of the church services that dominated their lives. This was the world topsy-turvy. The fool became the king, and the king had to play the fool. It was, of course, hilarious. It was a safety valve, allowing people to mock their superiors without fear of reprisal. For 12 days, a servant could know what it felt like to be a lord. And a lord, by playing along, could show his humility and good humor, thus strengthening his bond with his people. But it was also dangerous. A smart lord played along, but he also watched. What if the chosen Lord of Misrule was a bitter, resentful man? What if he used his power to settle a real grudge? What if he truly insulted a visiting noble from a rival family? Imagine the tension. The Lord of Misrule, drunk on power and ale, orders a visiting duke to kiss the hind end of a dead boar. The duke refuses. The hall goes silent. The joke has suddenly become a deadly, serious matter of honor. The real lord must now step in. But how? If he overrules the Lord of Misrule, he breaks the tradition and risks bad luck. If he doesn't, he risks a blood feud. And what about the Lord of Misrule himself? On the 13th day, he would be a servant again. He had to be very, very careful that his jokes didn't earn him a beating, or worse, once the party was over. The Lord of Misrule walked a razor's edge between fun and treason, and that knife edge of tension only made the party more electric. Part 2. The 12-Day Marathon. Or why you couldn't escape. Here's the first thing you need to understand. Medieval Christmas was not one day, it was 12. The 12 Days of Christmas isn't just a confusing song about birds. It was literal, it was legal, it was mandatory. The festival began on Christmas Day, December 25th, and didn't end until Epiphany on January 6th, known as Twelfth Night. Why 12 days? This wasn't random. This was ancient math, left over from a world that existed before Christianity. The winter solstice, the darkest, shortest day of the year, falls around December 21st. In the pagan world, this was terrifying. The sun had died. For 12 days after the solstice, no one knew if it would be reborn. The world was rebooting. And during that reboot, the veil between worlds was thin. Ghosts walked. Demons prowled. The Wild Hunt, a spectral army of the dead, led by the god Odin, or some phantom king, rode through the night sky. To be caught outside, alone, after dark during these 12 days? You risked being swept up by these demonic hunters and never seen again. The church couldn't ban this festival. It was too old, too powerful, too important. So they did what they always did. They baptized it. They bookended the 12 pagan days with 2 Christian feasts, the birth of Christ on December 25th and the arrival of the Magi on January 6th. Problem solved, sort of. And during these 12 days, one sacred rule applied. No work, or at least no servile work. The agricultural year was done. The grain was threshed and stored. The cattle were sheltered, or slaughtered and salted. The great salt, the final preservation, was finished. For the first and only time all year, there was nothing for a farmer to do. So the rule was simple. You couldn't plow. You couldn't weave. You couldn't grind grain at the mill, which the Lord often shut down entirely. To break this rule wasn't just rude, it was unlucky, sinful even. Superstitions were rampant. If a woman was caught spinning flax during the 12 days, people said demons would tangle her thread for the rest of the year, or worse, she'd invite death into the house. Even specific days within the 12 had their own character. December 28th, Holy Innocents' Day. was a day of mock inversion where children ruled the household, a preview of the chaos to come. Loi Thoai narration. For the nobility, this was a 12-day house party. For the peasants, it was a 12-day reprieve from crushing, relentless labor. But imagine what this marathon actually felt like. Day 1, Christmas Day. It begins with piety. A long, solemn mass in the freezing castle chapel, your breath visible in the candlelight. Then, the first feast. The energy is electric. Excitement crackles in the air. This is it. 12 days of freedom. Day 5. The Great Hall is already a wreck. The rushes on the floor are filthy, matted with grease and spilled ale. People are sleep-deprived, drunk, overfed. Tempers fray. That visiting knight who seemed charming on day 1, he's getting on everyone's nerves. Day 9. This is now an endurance test. You're in a fugue state of holiday brain, drunk on ale, lack of sleep, and an endless diet of meat. The music never stops. The noise is a constant, grinding drone. Your brain feels like porridge. Day 12, 12th night. One last massive manic blowout. Everyone knows the party ends tomorrow. This is the final gasp. People are holding nothing back. This was society's pressure valve, and like any good pressure valve, when it was released, it was loud, messy, and dangerous. You had to be festive. To be gloomy during the 12 days wasn't just bad-tempered, it was bad luck, an insult to the season itself. So you ate, you drank, you partied, whether you felt like it or not. This wasn't a vacation. It was a mandatory, exhausting, glorious siege of joy. Part 3. The Yule Log. The Beating Heart. The Yule Log was not a decoration. It was not a cute cake shaped like wood. It was the heart of the festival. The engine, the sun, the life force of the entire 12-day celebration. Its roots were entirely pagan, a ritual of sympathetic magic. The process began weeks before Christmas. The Lord's chief forester would venture into the manorial woods. His job? Select the largest, most perfect, most worthy tree on the estate. It had to be a hardwood, preferably oak, to burn long and slow. This wasn't just a log. It was often the entire base of a massive tree. A monster of wood so large it would take a team of oxen or horses to drag it back to the castle. This alone was a display of the Lord's wealth, the wealth of his woodlands. On Christmas Eve, this Yule log would be paraded through the village. Villagers would come out to touch it for luck. They'd sing carols as it passed. Some would pour ale or wine over it, a remnant of a pagan offering. To the tree spirit, thanking it for its sacrifice. Then, with enormous ceremony, it was dragged into the great hall. This was no small feat. It would take 8, 10, maybe 12 straining men, grunting and heaving to lever this monster into the cavernous fireplace. It was decorated with ribbons and greenery. It was a spectacle. And then, the most important ritual of all. The log could not be lit with a new flame. It could not be lit from a tinderbox or a spark. It had to be lit using a charred fragment from last year's Yule log, a piece that had been carefully preserved all year. This precious fragment, called the Old Log, was a powerful magical artifact. It was often kept under the Lord's bed, believed to protect the entire castle from lightning, fire, and evil spirits. This single act was the core of the holiday. It was a profound symbol of continuity. The old year giving birth to the new. a physical link connecting this Christmas to every Christmas that had come before. The lighting was a moment of silence, of awe, as the new log caught the old flame. Once lit, the fire had one single, non-negotiable job. It had to burn continuously, without fail, for all 12 days and nights. This created the most stressful holiday job in the castle, the fire watcher. A servant, or team of servants, had to tend the fire 24/7. They couldn't let it burn too fast, or it would be consumed before 12th night. They couldn't let it burn too low, or it might go out. Imagine being that servant. You're in a hot, smoky hall. You're exhausted. Everyone around you is drunk and asleep, and you are terrified of nodding off. Because if that fire went out, disaster. Not an inconvenience, a terrifying omen. It meant the Lord's luck had run out. It predicted sickness in the cattle, failure of the crops, or even a death in the Lord's family within the year. The fire was the castle's life. If it died, the year ahead was doomed. But the superstition went beyond just letting it go out. There were rules. You couldn't stir the log with a stick. You had to use a proper iron poker. A person who squinted wasn't allowed near it, as they might be overlooking the fire and cursing it with the evil eye. After the 12 days, when the log was finally allowed to die, its remains were pure magic. The ashes were collected and scattered on the fields on 12th night to ensure a good harvest. They were mixed with water and given to sick animals as medicine. A small piece of charred wood was, of course, saved to light next year's log. The circle of life. Complete. Part 4. The Open Gates. Charity as Theater. Amidst all this noble feasting, there was a crucial social and political duty. A lord's power came not just from his armies, but from the perception that he was a good, generous, and pious protector of his people. Christmas was his annual performance review. It was called Noblesse Oblige, the obligation of the nobility. And it meant one thing: you had to give and be seen to give. During the 12 days, the great gates of the castle, normally shut and barred, were thrown open. This was the open hall. The lord and lady would invite their tenants, the peasants, laborers, and villagers who worked their land, into the great hall. Now, let's be clear. This wasn't a free-for-all. The peasants didn't sit at the high table with the nobles, but they were allowed inside. Imagine you are a peasant. You live in a one-room, windowless, smoke-filled, dirt floor hovel that you share with your animals for warmth. Once a year, you are allowed to walk into the castle. You are hit by sensory overload. The light from hundreds of beeswax candles, a luxury you've never seen. The heat from the roaring Yule log, a fire 10 times bigger than your own pathetic hearth. The smell of spices and roasting meat. The sound of music, real music, not just a drunk uncle with a whistle. It must have felt like stepping into heaven. Or a dragon's lair. You were allowed to stand at the back of the hall, to warm yourself by the great Yule fire, and to watch the nobles feast. This was entertainment, the medieval equivalent of television. And you were given charity. The lord and lady would personally hand out bread, cheese, and, most importantly, ale. The almoner, the castle's charity officer, would distribute alms, food and money, to the deserving poor, the widows, the orphans, the elderly. There was even a specific alms dish where the best scraps from the Lord's table were placed, not to be thrown to the dogs, but to be collected and given to the poor. The Lord would often, in a great show of humility, eat humble pie. Literally, a pie made of the umbles, entrails of a deer, to show solidarity with the common folk. Never mind that a mountain of roasted swan sat right next to him. This was brilliant medieval public relations. For the peasant, it was an astonishing, unforgettable experience. It built immense loyalty. For the Lord, it was a display of his staggering wealth. He could afford to feed everyone and his Christian piety. But think of the security risk. The gates are open. The hall is full of strangers. The Lord and his family are in the same room as hundreds of peasants. The noise is deafening. The castle's men-at-arms, the guards, while trying to look festive, would have been on high alert, their hands on their swords. It was the perfect opportunity for a thief, an assassin, or a spy. From a rival castle to simply walk in, disguised as a beggar or a traveling mummer. The air was thick with festive cheer. And with a deep underlying tension.